Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that the people around you no longer question anything, that the human mind, once a powerful tool for inquiry, discernment, and growth, has dulled into passive acceptance. Think about that. What happens to a civilization when critical thinking becomes a lost art? When the ability to analyze, to doubt, to examine evidence no longer exists? In this video, we're going to expose the hidden architecture of collective stupidity. We're going to reveal why intelligent people are thinking less, why educated populations are becoming intellectually docile, and why the systems that promise to inform you are actually designed to program you. But before we descend into this topic, take a moment to subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and share your honest thoughts in the comments below. What you're about to experience will challenge every assumption you have about your own thinking, and about whether the thoughts in your head are actually yours. Share this with those who still believe that truth exists and is worth the effort of seeking it. Let's begin with a question most people never ask. When was the last time you changed your mind about something important? Not about trivial preferences, whether you like a song or a restaurant, but about something fundamental, a political belief, a moral conviction, a worldview. If you're honest, probably not recently. And if you did, it probably wasn't because you carefully evaluated new evidence. It was probably because your tribe shifted and you shifted with it. This is the first symptom of collective stupidity, the ossification of belief. People aren't thinking, they're defending. They're not evaluating ideas, they're protecting identity. And the moment your beliefs become inseparable from your sense of self, you've stopped thinking. You've started reacting. The philosopher Bertrand Russell wrote, "The trouble with the world is that the stupid are cocksure and the intelligent are full of doubt. But today, even the intelligent have become cocksure. Not because they've examined the evidence more carefully, but because they've learned to mistake confidence for competence, certainty for clarity, and the emotional comfort of being right for the intellectual rigor of being accurate." Here's what happened. We built systems that reward certainty over curiosity. Platforms that amplify outrage over nuance. Algorithms that feed you what you already believe, rather than what might challenge you. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, we've been trained to treat thinking as the enemy. Think about your social media feed. When was the last time you saw something that genuinely challenged your worldview, that made you uncomfortable, that forced you to reconsider? If you're like most people, the answer is almost never, because the algorithm has learned what keeps you engaged. And what keeps you engaged isn't truth, it's confirmation. The technology theorist Eli Parisa called this the filter bubble, the personalized universe of information that surrounds you, showing you only what algorithms predict you want to see. But it's worse than a bubble, it's a mirror. And when all you see is a reflection of your existing beliefs, you mistake that reflection for reality. You're not exploring ideas, instead you're just scrolling through a curated exhibition of your own biases and calling it being informed. But the problem isn't just technological, it's biological. Your brain wasn't designed for truth, it was designed for survival. And in the environment where your brain evolved, the two were often aligned. Think about it. Accurate beliefs about predators or food sources, or even social hierarchies, these definitely increased your survival odds. But here's the thing. In our modern information landscape, truth and survival are often opposed. Believing comforting lies, for example, is often much less costly than facing uncomfortable truths. And conforming to your group's beliefs, even when they're wrong, is often safer than truly dissenting with the truth. Your brain knows this. At a deep, unconscious level, it's choosing safety over accuracy. The neuroscientist Robert Burton actually documented this in his research on something he called the feeling of knowing. It's that subjective sense of certainty that feels like knowledge, but is actually just a neurochemical reward. See, your brain gives you a hit of dopamine when you encounter information that confirms what you already believe. And here's why. It feels good to be right. It feels really threatening to be wrong. So, your brain has evolved a sophisticated defense mechanism, motivated reasoning. This is the process by which you unconsciously seek out, interpret, and remember information in ways that support what you already believe. You're not objectively evaluating evidence. You're selectively gathering ammunition for pre-existing conclusions. And here's what makes this so pernicious. You can't see yourself doing it. You think you're being rational. You think you're weighing evidence, but you're actually cherry-picking data that supports your position and dismissing data that contradicts it, all while feeling like you're being objective. The psychologist Jonathan Haidt uses a metaphor. Your reasoning is like a press secretary for your intuitions. Your gut decides what's true based on emotion, identity, group loyalty. And then your conscious mind generates rational-sounding justifications for conclusions you've already reached unconsciously. You think you're thinking, but mostly you're rationalizing. And this wouldn't be such a problem if we lived in isolated cognitive bubbles, but we don't. We live in collective cognitive bubbles. And this is where individual irrationality becomes mass stupidity. Because humans are tribal. We evolved in small groups where conformity wasn't just comfortable, it was necessary. Being cast out from your tribe meant death, and so we developed powerful psychological mechanisms to ensure group cohesion. We defer to authority, we adopt group beliefs, we punish dissenters, we reward conformity. All of which was adaptive in small tribes, but it's catastrophic in mass societies, where the tribe is, well, millions of people you've never even met. They're united only by shared symbols and narratives, and increasingly divorced from reality. The sociologist Emil Durkheim called this collective consciousness. That's the set of shared beliefs that bind a society together. But what happens when that collective consciousness is wrong? When millions of people believe the same false things? When conformity to the group means conformity to error? Then you get what we're living through now, collective stupidity. And that's not because individuals are stupid, but because the social dynamics that ensure group cohesion actively punish independent thought. You see this everywhere. In politics, where questioning your side's narrative means betraying your tribe. In academia, where certain conclusions are forbidden not because they're false, but because they're unsayable. In media, where truth matters less than tribal signaling. And in workplaces, where pointing out problems is less valued than demonstrating loyalty. The more homogeneous the group, the worse it gets. The social psychologist Irving Janis studied this phenomenon, groupthink, where cohesive groups become so invested in maintaining unanimity that they suppress dissent, ignore contrary evidence, and make catastrophically bad decisions, all while feeling supremely confident. Historical examples abound: the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Challenger disaster, the 2008 financial crisis. In each case, highly intelligent people made obviously terrible decisions because the social dynamics of the group made it impossible to think clearly. Stay with me, because what comes next reveals why you're almost certainly caught in this trap right now, and why recognizing it is the first step to escape. The journalist Walter Lippmann wrote in 1922, "The world that we have to deal with politically is out of reach, out of sight, out of mind. It has to be explored, reported, and imagined." In other words, most of what you think you know about the world, you don't actually know. You know what you've been told about the world. And who's doing the telling? Media, institutions, influencers, algorithms, all of which have their own incentives, their own biases, their own agendas, none of which are primarily committed to truth. They're committed to engagement, to profit, to ideology, to power. But here's the trap. You think you're getting information from diverse sources. You follow different accounts, you read different websites, you expose yourself to both sides. But you're not. You're getting variations of the same narratives, filtered through the same assumptions, serving the same power structures. The illusion of diversity masks a profound uniformity of thought. The linguist Noam Chomsky called this manufacturing consent, the process by which power structures create the appearance of informed public opinion while actually shaping that opinion to serve their interests. And the most effective propaganda isn't crude lies, it's framing, determining which questions are asked, which topics are discussed, which perspectives are legitimate. You think you're freely forming opinions, but the menu of acceptable opinions has already been curated. The boundaries of acceptable thought have already been set. And anyone who thinks outside those boundaries is labeled extreme, dangerous, crazy. Not because they're wrong, but because they're threatening the consensus. And here's where it gets truly Orwellian. The people most convinced they're thinking freely are often the most thoroughly programmed, because they've learned to police their own thoughts, to self-censor, to automatically dismiss ideas that don't fit the approved framework, all while believing they're being open-minded. This is why critical thinking is disappearing, not because people lack intelligence, but because thinking has become socially costly. Every institution you interact with, education, media, employment, social media, rewards conformity and punishes deviance, and over time you learn to think within the approved boundaries, never questioning the boundaries themselves. The philosopher Michel Foucault called this disciplinary power. Power that, well, it doesn't need to be overtly enforced because it's been internalized. You become your own thought police. You don't need external censorship because you've learned to censor yourself. You've mistaken the cage for the whole world. And the most sophisticated form of this control is when you believe you're rebelling while actually serving power, when you think you're part of the resistance while repeating establishment narratives, when you believe you're thinking for yourself while thinking exactly what you've been conditioned to think. So, how do you know if you're caught in this trap? Here's the diagnostic. First, do your beliefs align suspiciously well with your social group? If everyone you respect believes X, and you believe X, and everyone you disrespect believes not X, you're probably not thinking, you're belonging. Second, when was the last time you engaged seriously with the strongest arguments against your position? Not strawmen, not caricatures, but the most intelligent, well-reasoned challenges to what you believe. If you can't articulate the opposing view better than its proponents, you don't understand the issue. Third, can you identify the conditions that would change your mind? If not, if your belief is unfalsifiable, if no evidence could possibly convince you otherwise, then your belief isn't based on evidence, it's based on faith, and faith isn't thinking. Fourth, do you feel emotionally threatened when your beliefs are questioned? Do you experience cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable tension when evidence contradicts belief, and immediately rationalize it away? That's your brain protecting your identity, not your mind pursuing truth. And here's the hardest part. Even recognizing these patterns doesn't automatically free you from them, because the mechanisms of collective stupidity aren't primarily conscious, they're pre-conscious. They operate before you even realize you're thinking. This is why intelligence isn't protection. High intelligence often just means more sophisticated rationalization. Smarter people are often better at convincing themselves that their biased reasoning is actually objective. They have more tools to defend their positions, more rhetorical skill to make their motivated reasoning sound rational. The psychologist Keith Stanovich calls this dysrationalia, the inability to think and behave rationally despite adequate intelligence. Smart people can be just as irrational as anyone else. They're just better at hiding it from others and from themselves. So, what's the solution? Because awareness alone isn't enough, you know. You can know all of this intellectually and still fall into every trap. You can understand cognitive biases and still be subject to them. Knowledge of the problem, well, that's not the same as immunity to it. The solution requires something most people are unwilling to do: epistemic humility. It's the recognition that you are probably wrong about many things you're confident about, that your beliefs are probably more influenced by tribe, emotion, and conditioning than you want to admit, and that thinking clearly requires active, effortful resistance to your brain's default modes. Now, the philosopher Karl Popper, he argued that the mark of scientific thinking is falsifiability. That's the willingness to specify what evidence would actually prove you wrong. Most people, though, they don't think scientifically. They think tribally. They gather evidence to support their positions, never to challenge them. Real thinking, it means approaching your own beliefs as hypotheses to be tested, not as truths to be defended. It means actively seeking disconfirming evidence, and it means changing your mind, not as defeat, but as growth. But this is uncomfortable, deeply uncomfortable, because it means holding your beliefs provisionally, living with uncertainty, admitting you don't know. And in a culture that demands certainty, that weaponizes doubt, that treats nuance as weakness, epistemic humility looks like intellectual cowardice. But it's not. It's intellectual courage. Real courage isn't confidence in the face of uncertainty. Real courage is honesty in the face of uncertainty. Admitting what you don't know, remaining open to being wrong, thinking rather than defending. The essayist Paul Graham wrote, "If you want to discover things that have been overlooked, one way to do it is to ask yourself questions that others have overlooked. What assumptions are people making that might be wrong?" But most people never ask this, because questioning assumptions means risking being wrong. And being wrong, well, it means potentially being cast out from your tribe. And tribal exile, even symbolic, feels like an existential threat. So here's the final, most important truth. Critical thinking isn't a skill, it's a stance. It's not about being smarter, it's about being willing to be wrong, willing to be uncomfortable, willing to stand alone if necessary, willing to face the social costs of thinking clearly in a world that rewards conformity. And those costs, they're real. Thinking independently means disappointing people who want you to think like them. It means losing friends who can't tolerate your questions. It means being labeled cynical, contrarian, difficult, dangerous. It means often being right and rarely being vindicated. Because by the time collective stupidity collapses under its own weight, everyone will pretend they knew better all along. But here's what you gain: intellectual sovereignty. The capacity to distinguish between what you actually think and what you've been conditioned to think, between beliefs you've examined and beliefs you've inherited, between ideas you hold and ideas that hold you. The physicist, Richard Feynman, he said, "The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool." This is the work, not fooling yourself, which means constantly checking. Am I thinking or am I defending? Am I evaluating or am I rationalizing? Am I open to evidence or am I gathering ammunition? Am I pursuing truth or am I protecting identity? And when you catch yourself defending rather than thinking, and you will constantly because your brain's built for defense, you must do something almost impossibly difficult. Pause, step back, ask, what if I'm wrong? What would that look like? What evidence would demonstrate it? This practice, this constant vigilance against your own cognitive biases, is what separates thinking from not thinking. And it's exhausting. It's why most people don't do it, why collective stupidity is the default, why intellectual independence is so rare. But it's also why the few who do this work become forces of clarity in a world of confusion, why independent thinkers have always been the ones who moved civilization forward, not because they were smarter, but because they were willing to think when everyone else was willing to conform. Galileo, Darwin, Turing. Each of them stood against collective certainty with individual doubt. Each was punished for it, and each was eventually proven right. Not because they were geniuses, but because they were willing to follow evidence rather than consensus, truth rather than comfort, reality rather than what everyone around them insisted was real. And here's what no one tells you about this path. It's lonely, not because you think you're better than others, but because you can no longer participate in the collective delusions that bind communities together. You see the narratives everyone else accepts without question. You notice the contradictions everyone else ignores. You can't unsee the mechanisms of manipulation once you've learned to recognize them. The writer Christopher Hitchens said, "If you want to stay sane in this world, you have to be a little bit crazy." What he meant was, sanity in an insane world looks like insanity. Clarity in a world of delusion looks like confusion. Truth in a world of comfortable lies looks like dangerous heresy, and you'll be treated accordingly, not with reasoned counter-arguments, but with social sanctions. You'll be dismissed, labeled, excluded, not because your arguments are weak, but because they're threatening, because they ask questions the collective has agreed not to ask. But here's the paradox. The more collective stupidity spreads, the more valuable independent thinking becomes. Not valuable in the sense of being rewarded, you probably won't be, but valuable in the sense of being necessary. Because societies that lose the capacity for critical thought don't just stagnate, they collapse. They make catastrophically bad decisions. They follow charismatic leaders off cliffs. They mistake passion for wisdom, volume for truth, consensus for correctness. They create echo chambers so complete that reality itself becomes optional until reality imposes itself through crisis, collapse, catastrophe. And then everyone will ask, how did we not see this coming? And the answer will be, because you chose not to see. Because seeing would have required thinking, and thinking would have required courage, and courage would have cost you your comfortable place in the collective. So, here's your choice. And it is a choice, even though it won't feel like one. You can continue as you are, accepting narratives, defending positions, belonging to tribes, mistaking the comfort of consensus for the clarity of truth. It's the easier path, the socially rewarded path, the path of least resistance. Or you can do something harder. Think. Actually think. Not perform thinking, not signal intelligence, not demonstrate cleverness, but engage in the slow, difficult, often painful work of examining your beliefs, testing your assumptions, following evidence wherever it leads, even when it leads away from your tribe, your identity, your comfort. And if you choose the latter, understand what you're choosing. You're choosing discomfort over ease, clarity over comfort, truth over belonging. You're choosing to be intellectually homeless, not belonging to any tribe completely, not accepting any narrative uncritically, not trusting any authority absolutely. The philosopher Albert Camus wrote, "The welfare of the people has always been the alibi of tyrants. But in the age of collective stupidity, the tyrant isn't a person. It's the collective itself. The tyranny isn't imposed from above. No, it emerges from below, from the masses who've surrendered their capacity to think, and now demand everyone else surrender theirs too. And the alibi is no longer welfare. It's safety. It's belonging. It's being on the right side of history. It's not wanting to be that person, you see, the one who questions, who doubts, who asks uncomfortable questions, who refuses to go along. But someone has to be that person. Someone has to maintain the capacity for thought, while everyone else is surrendering to groupthink. Someone has to ask the questions everyone else is afraid to ask, and someone has to risk the social costs of clarity in an age of collective delusion. If this message has disturbed you, if you've recognized your own intellectual surrender in this diagnosis, if you're feeling the weight of how much you've accepted without questioning, good. Don't rationalize it away. Don't retreat into, but everyone thinks this way, or this is just how things are. Sit with it. Subscribe to this channel if you want to continue this work of intellectual sovereignty. Leave a comment with your honest answer. What belief are you most afraid to question? What assumption underlies your certainty? When was the last time you genuinely changed your mind? Share this with someone who's ready to think rather than conform. Not everyone is ready. Most people will dismiss this as cynical, negative, unnecessarily harsh. Let them. They're not ready to face how much of their thinking isn't actually theirs. But here's what happens when you do reclaim your capacity for critical thought. You start noticing the patterns, the manipulation, the groupthink, the way every institution you interact with is designed to make you stop thinking and start obeying. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, which raises an even deeper question. If your thoughts aren't your own, if your beliefs have been programmed into you by forces you never questioned, then who are you really beneath all that conditioning? I have a full video exploring exactly this question, linked below. Critical thinking is disappearing, not because people are becoming stupider, but because they're becoming more obedient, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack courage. Not because information is scarce, but because it's so abundant. That distinguishing truth from noise requires effort most people won't make, and collective stupidity rises, not because everyone is wrong, but because everyone is wrong in the same way, defending the same narratives, refusing to ask the same questions, united in their certainty. And their certainty is what makes them dangerous. The question before you is simple, but not easy. Will you continue to be part of the collective, or will you do the harder thing, the lonelier thing, and actually think? Most people won't. Most people will nod along with this, feel momentarily awakened, and then return to their tribes, their narratives, their comfortable certainty. But not you. You're still here, which means something in you refuses to surrender. Something in you still believes that truth matters more than comfort, that thinking matters more than belonging, that reality matters more than narrative. Let that something grow. Feed it with questions. Strengthen it with doubt. Protect it from the collective pressure to conform. Because the future doesn't need more people repeating what everyone else thinks. It needs people willing to think what everyone else refuses to consider. Let that person be you.